How's it going everyone, it is Panjno here, and in today's video we're going to be covering the ultimate FPS increase guide for Warzone 3.0, covering the brand new content update coming with the Call of Duty Vanguard integration to Warzone, featuring the brand new Ricochet anti-cheat alongside the brand new map CALDERA. This video is going to be aiming to help you guys achieve the best FPS possible when playing Warzone, regardless of how old, new, low or high spec your PC is. This video is going to be going in depth with all of the most useful and most effective optimizations possible in which you can apply to your system, reducing any micro stuttering you may be experiencing for the fastest, smoothest, and lowest input latency gameplay experience possible. If you do enjoy this video and are happy with the results, please leave a like and a comment down below as it helps me out tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. So we're first of all going to navigate down to the bottom left, type in GPU space settings. In here you want to make sure if you do have the option available to you for hardware accelerated GPU scheduling, turn this on. Again, for those of you on high-end systems, leaving GPU hardware acceleration turned to the off position may actually provide you with the best results. Following on from there, we can then navigate to the bottom left hand side, typing in game space mode, selecting the game mode setting. There's been mixed opinion about whether or not game mode is worthwhile using. On all of the systems in which I have tested, I either see no improvement from game mode or a slight increase. For those of you running on high-end systems, you may want to leave game mode off, as this in many cases can improve performance. Here you can see a quick comparison of game mode on and hardware accelerated GPU scheduling on versus off on a high-end gaming PC featuring a 5900X and a RTX 3080. As you can see, we're able to achieve roughly about an extra 10 frames per second by having these switched off, but on low-end to medium-end systems, you may be seeing up to 20 frames per second gained from having them on. So this really does depend on your system specs. Following on from there, we can optimize our Windows power plan. This is definitely quite a basic tweak, but it's definitely something in which you need to check is running correctly. For this, navigate to the bottom left, type in power space plan, select edit power plan, go to the power options button at the top, click this, then go down to show additional plan. For every single person watching, you should at least be running on the high performance Windows power plan, and you can select this by selecting the small dot next to it. But for those of you that are looking for the best FPS possible and you're running on a desktop, we can actually enable the ultimate performance power plan, which can be unlocked quickly and easily with inside of Windows. Navigate to the bottom left hand side, type in CMD, right click on command prompt, run this as an administrator. Once inside of here, navigate inside of the description down below where you'll be able to find the power plan options to copy and paste. Once it's copied, navigate over to CMD, then use Ctrl and V on your keyboard to paste, then press enter. Exit out, go back to the power options menu, go to the top right, select refresh, scroll down, you should then be able to see the ultimate performance power plan. Select this, exit out, navigate down to your taskbar at the bottom, right click, and then select Task Manager. Inside of here, navigate over to the Startup tab, and you want to start disabling any apps and services with inside of here in which you know you don't need to boot automatically with your PC. Every single application that's running on your PC whilst playing games will be taking up CPU cycles in the background and sometimes even using GPU usage. Select the app you wish to disable, go down to the bottom right, then select disable. For those of you that use Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge as a web browser, open up the web browser, go to the top right hand side to the three dots, then navigate down to settings. On the left hand side, you want to navigate down to the advanced section, then click on system. You want to ensure that continue running background apps when Google Chrome is closed is disabled. This will stop all of your Chrome plugins and extensions from running in the background, even when the web browser is closed. Next, we're moving on to Battlenet and Modern Warfare application fixes. Navigate to the bottom left hand side and search for Battlenet. Right click on this, then select Open File Location. In here, we then want to right click again, select Open File Location. First of all, start off with the launcher exe, right click, go down to Properties, go to the Compatibility mode, and ensure that Run this program as an administrator has been selected. Go down to Change High DPI settings, override the high DPI scaling, select OK. We're no longer going to be disabling full screen optimizations, so leave this on. And repeat the optimization for the Battlenet exe. Once that's done, we can then navigate inside of the Battlenet launcher, go to the options menu next to play, select show and explorer. Go to the Call of Duty Modern Warfare folder, scroll down until you find the Modern Warfare launcher exe and Modern Warfare exe, and again, we're going to apply those exact same optimizations. Once that's done, we can then go ahead and minimize out the launcher. We can now apply an FPS fix which was founded late with inside of Season 5, which can fix inconsistent FPS and FPS stuttering on many PCs. For this, we need to navigate down to our File Explorer. Once inside of it, navigate over to your Documents page. Find Call of Duty Modern Warfare, go inside of this folder, then go down to Players, click on the file, and we need to set this up as per our system specs. I'm going to recommend that you set your video memory scale to 1.2. This is especially important for those of you running on RTX 3000 series graphics cards and Radeon RX 6000 series. You can then navigate down to Renderer Work Account. On screen now, you're going to see some information on Intel and Ryzen systems and what you should set the renderer work account to, depending on which CPU you have. To see which CPU is installed to your system, navigate down to your taskbar, right click, open Task Manager. Go to the Performance tab, then select CPU. On the top right hand side on this PC in which I'm recording on, you can see that I'm running a Ryzen 9 5900X and that I have 12 cores. You want to have a look at the core number to find which you should set this to on the left hand side. This is definitely one of the steps in which you might want to come back to at the end of this video to try out a few different options to see what really works best on your system. In some cases you might find that you actually have better or worse performance if you go up by one core or down by one core. Go to the top left, select save, right click on the file, go down to properties, then select read only. This will lock the file from being able to be changed by the game, which will force these settings every single time it's booted. Just remember that you need to take this off of read only if you want to make changes in the future. With read only set, select apply, select OK, we can then go ahead and exit out. For those of you that are looking for potential upgrades to make and you want the best performance possible on CALDERA but don't have enough money to fork out for an RTX 3090 and the latest and greatest in CPUs, there really isn't actually that much performance difference depending if you're playing on lower resolutions or not. On screen now you can see a quick benchmark comparison from a fully tuned system running a Ryzen 9 5900X and an RTX 3080 with Samsung BDI DDR4. All of the components are heavily tuned and we're playing at 1080p. You can see this compared to my brand new Alder Lake 12th gen system, which is running the Intel i5 12600K alongside an AMD Radeon RX 6700 XT running DDR5 basic RAM. You may even be able to see more performance from the Alder Lake system if you're running on Samsung BDI DDR4 or if you're watching this video in the future when you've got 6000 megatransfers memory available or even higher. And the 12th gen system is worth roughly half of what the AMD 5900X system is worth. So in all honesty, for a balanced system for CALDERA and you're a big Warzone player, I would definitely consider going with an Intel 12th generation system and pairing that with an AMD RX 6000 or potentially even 7000 series GPU, as the price to performance with those parts is phenomenal. This now leads us on to the most important part of this video. The system BIOS is where lays the most important optimizations for Battle Royale games, which are incredibly CPU and RAM intensive. Even if overclocking is not your thing, most of these options are not set by stock, so even if you have the best system in the world and you've paid for the most expensive RAM, you won't be getting the benefits from that. For Intel users, you first of all want to make sure that you are running on your XMP memory profile. This will allow you to use those settings and timings which are advertised on the fancy RAM kit you've more than likely got installed. If you haven't already turned your XMP profile on, you'll be running on stock memory, regardless of how good your memory kit is. All-core overclocking is definitely the way to go with inside of Intel-based systems, and allowing you to achieve the best multi-core performance, which is incredibly important when playing Battle Royale games. Also want to have a look into ring ratio overclocking. A mild to a significant increase to the CPU ring ratio can improve performance of practically every other part of your system in which the CPU controls. This is especially important for those of you that have spent a little bit extra to get a good RAM kit to ensure that you have the best FPS possible. If you were really serious about getting the best performance possible, you would also want to look into disabling any of the global C state power saving options alongside Intel speed stepping. We do not want to introduce any fluctuation to this whatsoever, as this can cause instability and lower performance. For the Ryzen BIOS section, we have a few more options to set. First of all, just like Intel, it's definitely recommended to go with an all-core overclock, and if you're still running on a Ryzen 1, 2 or 3000 series chip, it is definitely worthwhile looking into and potentially picking up a 5000 series chip, even if it's just a 5600X. As of the latest update to Warzone, unlike my other FPS videos, I would definitely recommend keeping SMT enabled so you have the best multi-core performance possible. And for Ryzen 5000 series users, you want to go into your advanced CPU settings and you want to ensure that both CPPC and CPPC preferred cores are both set to disabled. This can help reduce latency and further boost performance on every single Ryzen 5000 series chip. You also want to look into disabling any of the power saving options alongside global C states, as again, these will lower idle temperatures, but this can cause inconsistency in max frame performance. You also want to ensure that you're running your XMP or DOCP memory profile, just to ensure that you are getting the most out of the RAM in which you've already paid for. And an incredibly important step for Ryzen users, not only do you need to set this profile, you also need to navigate down to your Infinity Fabric clock or F clock on your BIOS, and this needs to be set to half of your system memory profile speed. So if your RAM kit is now running at 3600 MHz, your F clock needs to be set to 1800, as this is half. If you're on 3200 MHz speed, you want to be going with 1600. That now leaves us with the last options in which every single person should be looking at on their BIOS. You want to first of all navigate down to your PCI sections and see if you do have resizable bar. If this option is available to you, enabling this will provide you with up to 5 to 10% FPS increase across the board in demanding Battle Royale titles. RAM speed and timings are going to be the most important thing when it comes to pushing Warzone FPS to the highest possible. The higher the speed and the lower the timing, the better the performance in which you're going to get. The best RAM in which which you can purchase on the market currently is made of Samsung B-Die memory chip. RAM kits featuring dual rank Samsung B-Die is really the cherry on top when it comes to Warzone and other Battle Royale games FPS. If you want the best of the best, these are the RAM chips in which you need in your RAM kit for the best performance possible, hands down. On screen now you can see my fully optimized version of Warzone running. On the left hand side you can see my stock memory speeds. In the middle you can see an overclocked memory kit which is not running Samsung B-Die, which is pushed to its absolute limits. And on the right hand side you can see my fully tuned Samsung B-Die kit. Nothing else inside of this benchmark has been changed. The games are running on the exact same settings. The only thing that is different is the RAM kits and the speed. When installing your latest graphics card driver, I highly recommend doing a clean installation of the driver. And to see how to do this, you can follow the video on screen now, which is also linked in the description down below. This video will show you how to successfully perform a complete clean installation of GPU drivers, removing all of the old GPU drivers from your system, which could be causing lower performance, but also cause issues with crashing with inside of the game or even PC blue screen. Performing a clean driver installation is incredibly important, and watching that video, you'll be able to learn how to do this in the future so you can have fantastic performance at all times. We now need to optimize the control panel settings for both AMD Radeon and Nvidia users. Navigate on your desktop, right click, open up inside of the Nvidia control panel or Radeon settings panel. For Nvidia users, you first of all want to navigate up to adjust image settings with preview on the top left hand side, then select the middle option which will allow you to set your own custom options. Once that's been selected, select apply. Navigate over to the left hand side once again, this time to manage 3D settings, and you first of all want to start off by navigating down to DSR factors. To turn DSR factors off, you just simply need to make sure that all of these boxes are unchecked. Once they're unchecked, select OK. Navigate down to power management mode, go to the drop down menu, take this off of normal and set this to prefer maximum performance. Moving on to preferred refresh rate, go to the application control setting, set this to highest available, and of the brand new latest Nvidia driver as of the time of recording this video, you also have the option to change your shader cache side. And setting this up mainly depends on how much free storage space you have on your C drive. As you can see, I have 175 gigabytes free on my local disk C drive. In here you can either set this to driver default if you're not sure what we're going to go with, but some of my recommendations can be found on the right hand side of the screen. Anisotropic sample optimizations should be turned on. Texture filtering quality, taking this off of quality, and we're going to be setting this to high performance. With those options all set up, we can navigate to the bottom right hand side, then select apply. And for a quick option to adjust your image color settings, which is incredibly important for a competitive advantage, you can navigate over to the left hand side to adjust desktop color settings, and we can actually adjust our digital vibrance. We'll drastically increase the saturation on your screen, which could give you a much nicer image without having to use Nvidia filters or other techniques which can take away from FPS. Definitely worthwhile looking into GPU overclocking. GPU overclocking is incredibly safe, simple, and quick to set up. Modern GPUs are hardware locked, so you cannot push the limits beyond the point of where they'll cause any damage. The worst thing you could run into is just that your games crash, where you can simply then just dial back the overclock or reset it, which can result in some areas of Warzone up to a 15% FPS increase. Now, for those of you out there that still want to use the Nvidia GeForce Experience, you will have to manually download this to have it installed to your system. If you aren't someone that uses GeForce Experience often, or you don't feel as if you'll ever use it, it's definitely recommended not to have it installed to your system, as you will see a performance decrease from having it installed. With that being said, to download and install the Nvidia GeForce Experience, find the link in the description down below, select download now, go to the bottom left hand side, then select open once it's completed. This will then download and accumulate any updates for the GeForce Experience and install them to your PC. Before we boot into the game using the Battlenet launcher, we're going to navigate to the bottom right hand side to our task icon tray and start closing out of any and all applications and game launchers we do not need open whilst playing our game. This is an incredibly bad habit to have, as every single one of these programs that is open is taking up CPU cycles and in some cases even soaking up GPU resources. Before we boot into the game, navigate to the bottom left hand side to options, then select game settings. In this page, select additional command line arguments, and we're going to type in -D3D11. Select done, then go down to play. When booting into the game for the first time, when these shaders are installing, make sure that you do stay at the main menu whilst the shaders install, as going into the other menus and causing the shader installation to pause and freeze can sometimes cause issues. We're first of all going to navigate down to the bottom left hand side, select options, and we'll be brought into the brand new in-game settings menu. Any and all settings in which are not covered in this video, feel free to set them how you wish to do so, as they will be personal preference and will not affect input latency or performance in any way. Start by navigating over to interface. It is recommended to have your minimap shape set to square, as you'll actually be able to see more information on the minimap this way. Once that's done, proceed to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we can enable the in-game FPS counter right at the bottom here, titled frames per second counter. The only other option to set with inside of here is right at the bottom for skip introduction movie. Once those have been set, navigate over to your graphics tab. The main setting you need to set up with inside of here before we boot into the game is in the quality tab. With inside of here, navigate down to on-demand texture streaming and turn this off. Go to the advanced section, and if you do have the option for this, select clear texture cache. Select continue, navigate back up to the streaming quality, and we're going to be changing this to low for absolutely every single person watching. Regardless if you're on an old, new, high or low end PC, set this to low. Once those options have been selected, select apply. We can then navigate down to private match and practice, then select Warzone orientation. Select play training, and I personally like to run into this back right corner and just aim towards this telephone pole, as this gives us a good visual representation of close-up foliage, details on the fence on the right, close-up buildings, bar buildings, and also distant trees, so you can get a good visual representation of all of the settings we're going to be setting. You can also take note of what your FPS currently is in the top left hand side. Take yourself into the options menu, head over to graphics. First of all, starting off with display mode, full screen needs to be set for every single person watching. It is the best option and it will provide you with the lowest level of input latency. Render resolution we'll be coming back to towards the end of this video, so skip this option for now. Screen refresh rate needs to be set to the highest available for your monitor. Dynamic resolution we're going to be skipping out on and coming back to at the end. Sync every frame VSync disabled. Custom frame rate limit. If you want to limit your FPS, feel free to do so, but my personal recommendation would be to set this to unlimited to ensure that you are getting the lowest level of input latency at all times. Nvidia highlights is recommended to have this switched off. Nvidia reflex low latency is recommended to have switched to enable plus boost for every single person watching if this is possible. Go ahead and select apply to those settings. Take yourself over to the quality tab. Heading over to field of view. My personal preference for this is 110. One of the brand new options which is available to us in the latest update is camera movement. This does not have a performance effect, but I would definitely recommend setting this down to 50%. The following settings we're going to be setting up for the lowest level of input latency possible and the best FPS. Texture resolution should be set to very low, as this drastically reduces VRAM usage and lowers input latency. Texture filter anisotropic should be set to normal or high. Particle quality needs to be set to high. Having particle quality set to low will cause this horrible blurring, shimmering effect in the background, especially at lower resolutions, so have this set to high. Bullet impacts and sprays disabled. Tessellation disabled. Dismemberment and gore effects disabled. On-demand texture streaming also disabled. Film width strength is going to be set to 0%. Film grain 0%. Nvidia DLSS we're going to be skipping out on this option and coming back to this later. Anti-aliasing, and my personal recommendation for this would be either to set this to off or SMAA1 times. Having this set to off may make your game look slightly too sharp, especially for those of you running on lower end resolutions, and if this is the case, set this to SMAA1 times. Depth of field, world motion blur, and weapon motion blur, all three of these settings need to be set to off. Leading us down to shadow map resolution. On some lower end systems, you may get the best results by going with low, but for nearly every single person watching, you should definitely try out high. As with the way shadows were rendered in the previous seasons of Warzone, setting your shadow map resolution down to low was setting some extremely strange overlay filters within inside of the shadows, actually making lower presets run worse. Cache, spot, and sun shadows should both be set to enabled. Particle lighting should be set to low. DirectX ray tracing disabled. Ambient occlusion also disabled. And finally, screen space reflections, setting this to disabled. Once those settings have been set up, select apply. Take a look at the fence, take a look at some of the items around you, the buildings, and more importantly, the trees. How easily can you see past them? Are the visuals too blurry? Are they too sharp? And make adjustments to your in-game settings depending on those factors. For a final FPS boost, we can cover a few more options in which are available to us to boost our FPS. The number one option in which I'm going to be recommending, as we haven't still got AMD FSR technology integration with inside of the new update, is for any of you that are running on an Nvidia graphics card that is still supported by the latest drivers, GTX cards work as well, is to consider using the brand new Nvidia image scaling or NIS technology. There's a video on screen now which I recently published to the channel which goes through how to set this up, how it works, and the best settings to use. This is definitely worthwhile using with inside of Warzone for those of you running at 1080p, 1440p, 4K, and those of you that use ultra wide monitors. You could be seeing up to a 20, 30, or even 40% FPS increase in most of your games in which you're playing, and Warzone will see a similar boost to this, as the brand new Warzone map is a lot more GPU heavy compared to Verdansk. So you can also navigate inside of the in-game options menu and head down to the dynamic resolution option. Turn this to enabled and we can set our dynamic resolution frame rate target. Now you don't want to be unrealistic with this number, as if you set this number too high to an FPS count that that you don't typically get when you're playing, your game is constantly going to be extremely blurry. Let's say that you have a PC and you're typically able to get 140 frames with inside of CALDERA. Well, I would personally recommend setting your dynamic resolution target to about 120. Setting this lower to what you typically get will mean that this only kicks in when you experience those big FPS drops, and this can help compensate for those. Please do ensure that you have your particle quality set to high, because having particle quality set to low will mean that distant objects are insanely blurry when using dynamic resolution. For those of you that do have an Nvidia RTX based GPU, you definitely can make use of Nvidia DLSS. The only downside to this is that DLSS does have a slight hit on CPU performance, so you won't be seeing as much of a performance improvement. Head to the quality tab, scroll down to the middle, you'll then be able to find Nvidia DLSS. You pretty much cannot use the quality setting, as on most setups you'll actually be seeing lower FPS compared to not using DLSS. So the best setting you can really set this to is balanced, and in most cases I would just recommend setting this to performance. CALDERA does have a newer updated version of DLSS which doesn't have as much ghosting or smearing, and does a much better job of giving you a clear image even at the lower setting. If that's too blurry for you, simply turn this off, and I would definitely consider using NIS instead. But take yourself around, make sure that you are happy with your visuals before finalizing your in-game settings, and tweak any of the settings if you need them higher or lower for your personal preference. And there you guys have it. That is the ultimate FPS increase guide for Warzone 3.0 with the brand new Call of Duty Vanguard integration, featuring the Call of Duty Ricochet anti-cheat and the brand new Warzone CALDERA map. And if you're looking for further optimizations on any other games in which you play, or just for Windows or your system, check out the videos on screen now.